the world has been pining for, or simping, I guess.
Simping for,
I guess simping for a new Superman film. So I feel like this is the perfect one. This film isn't, it's not an origin story. You like dive right into things. You dive into pre-existing relationships, pre-existing dynamics. So for the both of you, what was it like kind of developing what wasn't on the script for these characters when we first meet them? Because they already have their own set of, challenges and dynamic with each other when we meet them. So what was that like kind of building that?
It was great conversations among the three of us, Rachel and James and I, talking about that and asking questions. I was kind of...
So many questions.
I was pleasantly taken aback that James hadn't, decided a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you have a writer who knows exactly what the characters have been going through before they show up. He had a very strong ideas about certain things. We're 3 months into their relationship, she knows his secret identity. But when it came to, as actors, we asked questions like, well, how exactly did they meet? And James sort of started thinking. And so we got to think about that together and talk about it together. And as an actor, it's nice to say, sorry, we have a race going on outside. I have money on it, so I want to make sure. James, and that's the train, which is going to win the race for sure. James would think about it out loud. It's great as an actor to be able to have some flexibility in that conversation, because you might say, well, it would actually help me a lot if they met in this way, or if when they met, this was his feeling. And James was very excited about all that, and we had some great conversations about it.
Yeah.
We realized really early on that, of course, both of us share some DNA with these characters, and in some ways we're different from them, but that was my
This is
train.
the most chaotic interview of the day.
But
It was 30 seconds more or a minute longer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What is that? The bird just flying into the window?
Lex Luthor hasn't paid his utility bill, so they're ripping the wires out of the walls.
We realized really early on that we have similar ways of... Are we going to die? And we also, while we have very similar goals, and I think ultimately view the world in a similar way, we sometimes have opposite.
Who, you and me?
Yeah.
Oh, you've been talking about us this whole time?
We're talking about us.
Oh,
That
yes.
we view the world in similar ways, but we sometimes have very different approaches, and I think it was fun for us to be able to discover that as we were discovering these two characters. Like, I remember us having a big conversation with James about how to win an argument, whether raising your voice to win an argument or going low and quiet and pulling you in wins an argument, and we feel very differently about that.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about the scene that we see them in an apartment earlier on in the film, and it kind of points to the fact of like, okay, how do you win an argument? Like, what does it mean, and what does the aftermath of that look like?
I think you win an argument by never quitting. If you just keep talking and never leave, then you can't lose.
See, I disagree. I
Attrition.
think you can
Attrition
walk out
is the name of the
quietly
game.
and win.
I agree. I see both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why their love story is one of the greatest. I think they're both right and they're both wrong.
Yeah.
And
Well, we can't both be right, because I think you're wrong. It's a classic strategy. Take that with you. Use it in arguments.
Yeah, the arguments were good, on and off set.
Well, speaking of this love story, you're playing characters who have had this relationship for almost a century, which is like crazy for fictional characters to have this storied history like that. But what do you think this version of this relationship says about love and relationships in 2025?
That conflict and constructive conflict is a key part of any relationship. And in a world where, dare I say, dating apps might give you the illusion that the easiest or the most productive route is to jump ship and try for another one.
Swipe right.
That I never remember which direction you swipe for which.
I've never been on one.
Well,
I think left is no, right is yes.
Yeah.
So which way is left? Like
yeah, is you
left.
swiping left or is it going left?
You're swiping left.
Like both would happen.
It's weird. It's hard to think. Also, I'm left-handed, so that's hard for me.
So I think constructive conflict is an important part of any relationship, and getting to know and appreciate each other's style when it comes to conflict. How do you behave? What matters to you when things aren't going well? That obviously, sort of by definition, is a difficult part of a relationship, but it's, I think, where you build the strongest foundations and really get a sense of whether you're somebody who, whether you're a pair who can weather the slings and arrows of life.
I also think, especially for Lois, and I can speak more clearly from her perspective, but I think it's important to understand that there's strength in vulnerability, that being invincible isn't necessarily the strongest, or isn't necessarily a symbol of every aspect of strength, I suppose. And I feel like in a relationship, being able to make room for somebody else's worldview, even if you never adopt it, and even if you don't understand it completely, being able to engage and make room for it is important and makes you both better.
What's it like playing members of the media, as a journalist myself, when there's a time where, a lot of people, the media, it's a weird space in media, both for like the reception of media and to just like, I feel like we're like unsung heroes as far as like, trying to bring, stories to life.
I guess one of the things I appreciate about James's script is that he still has Lois as a print journalist, which she's always been, and I think it takes on new meaning in a moment where print journalism is an art form under siege, and where we're having really big and important conversations about the pursuit of truth. What is true? Who gets to say that something is true?
And also because you're not very good with computers.
That's also true. And the importance of a free and fair press.
Yes, absolutely. But thank you both so much for chatting with me. I can't wait for more people to see this film. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Why do you think that ultimately it would have been in the best interest of this film to not be a origin story, and we're kind of coming into this film with pre-existing relationships, pre-existing dynamics? Why do you think that was ultimately best for this film?
I think there's maybe 5 people in the world that don't know that Superman came from Krypton on a rocket ship and was raised by farmers in Kansas. But for those 5 people who don't know it, we put it in one sentence at the beginning of the movie, so they do. But I know that when I started reading comics as a little kid, I learned to read on comics. I entered into Superman's world, which was a world with Superman and other superheroes, and giant monsters and robots and sorcery and flying dogs. And so I really wanted to enter into Superman's preformed world. I thought that was the best thing for the film.
Yeah. I was speaking with Eddie yesterday, and I was saying how, especially, black cinema fans have always wanted to see him in another comic book movie, another superhero film. So why do you think he was perfect to be Mr. Terrific in this film?
Like, Mr. Terrific was the hardest role to cast in the whole movie. I saw easily 200 actors read for the role.
Wow.
And I couldn't find the right guy. I had known Eddie a little bit. I'd met him in other places, and I was a big fan of his acting and other things, and the TV show Startup, for one thing. And I called up John Papsadero. I'm like, why has Edi Gathegi not read? And he goes, oh, okay, I'll get him to come in and read. And Eddie came in and just nailed it from the beginning. He was able to do that staccato, sort of way that he talks, but it's still incredibly humorous. That overly dry character that Mr. Terrific is. He really was far and away the best person who auditioned for the role.
Yeah. And I love the way that the engineer is used in this film. I had seen Maria in Deadly Class.
Oh yeah, Deadly Class, right?
Another comic book movie.
Yeah, great.
And it's a comic series, and it's such a different, dynamic here. She physically and visually looks different. What was it like utilizing that character in the first Superman outing?
Yeah, I mean, I just really liked the engineer's power set, and I thought she would be someone that I liked taking elements of the Authority story, that she's a member of the Authority in the comics, and giving those elements to Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
To really combine the Wildstorm and the DC characters in the DCU, and I thought her power set was good for fighting Superman.
And speaking of the Authority, I know that was a project that was announced. Is that still something you plan to do? And could we see Maria pop up in that role?
We could, for sure. Yeah, it could happen. Yeah. It's not something that's going especially quickly right now, but it could happen for sure.
When you think of universes, I feel like a lot of times, especially within fandom, sometimes a lot of people think it seems more easier than not trying to build a universe and deciding, what should go where, film or TV, which characters. So in your tutelage so far at DC, what do you think has been probably the easiest and the hardest part about upstarting this universe?
Well, the hardest part has just simply, for me, has been the hours that I've spent. It's these first few years were really difficult. I'm going to take a break after I do the press for this for the first time in years. I barely had a day off, much less a week off. So it's just really been the amount of work. I feel like I'm wanted everywhere at one time, and it's been a lot. It's been difficult because of that. But I think the easiest thing is just that I love these characters so much that it makes the work easy. There's a lot of it because I love the characters. I love the DC, stable of people that we have, and I have a great people around me like Peter Safran and all the DC studio folks. So the people part of it has been great, both whether they're fictional or just actual real people.
And this film begins with Krypto, and I just love that. I feel like it sets the tone for kind of what to expect within this film. Was it always a plan to have? When you initially, okay, we're going to start with Superman. Did you always know that it was going to, in some way, shape, or form, include Krypto?
No, definitely not. I included Krypto after I got my dog, and my dog was so bad. And that was what gave me the idea of making a superpowered dog that was also a pretty terrible dog and ill-behaved, and what fun that would be. And he became sort of an agent of chaos in the film, which he is. So he wasn't originally a part of it, but once I put Krypto into the script, that's when things really kind of kick-started into high gear, and I started to see what this whole world was of the movie we were making.
And lastly, how do you think the world will be surprised by, and how they will receive David's version of Superman?
Well,
I first saw him in Hollywood, and The Politician, I believe. How do you think the world's going to react to this?
I think they're going to love Superman they're going to love David, Superman, both. I think that he's an amazing guy and he's an amazing Superman. And I think just from what we've already done and the people that have seen the movie, they can all attest to the fact that he's a wonderfully charming and lovable and huggable Superman.
Awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. And I can't wait for more people to see this film. And I'm excited to see more from this universe.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Eddie, my first question is for you. As I feel like fans, especially fans of like Black cinema, have been wanting to see you in another superhero project, another comic book-based project. What about this film specifically you think is the perfect one for you to be reintroduced to the genre?
That's a good question. Mr. Terrific is a self-made intellectual powerhouse. And where the promise of my Marvel stint, said you can be the most powerful mutant in the world and we will still kill you, the message of this movie is you can be one of the most intelligent people on the planet and you can still help change the world. So this is a character that I think is being handled with tremendous amounts of respect. And I am so grateful that I get to step into this role.
Isabella, like first of all, you've been booked and busy this year. It's like I love to see from this movie to being in The Last of Us. I was reading that, of course, your character in the film is like she's flying so much throughout this movie, and I read that like a lot of that was like you had spent so much of the movie in a harness. Like out of all the characters, you spent the most time doing that. What was that experience like, and did you have any fear of doing that before this project?
So, funny enough, I didn't connect the dots. I really was just so excited to be there that I was like, oh, wow, there's a harness fitting. Oh, there's a second harness fitting. Oh, wow, I have 3 alternating harnesses. And I'm going to be in the air pretty much the whole time. And it's really interesting, acting in the air. It's a different thing. And I'm not afraid of heights, actually. I actually love getting up there and getting that weird feeling in my stomach, but I am claustrophobic.
Okay.
So that part was a little hard for me to deal with the harness and the tight suit and all that gear. But I'm really proud of myself because I did push through, and that's hard when you have fears in the way.
No. I'm afraid of like small zip lines, so I don't think I could even
Yeah, there's a few fears to consider when doing aerial work. Yeah.
And Anthony, for you, speaking of these transformations, I was reading that like most of your transformation is physical in the movie. Like it's no motion capture, no CGI. What was that process like, being able to have to spend so much time for that transformation for this character?
Well, I mean, first of all, I was so grateful that it was being done with prosthetics and actual makeup, because I just think, I don't know, I think that movies have tended to kind of move in the direction of like just all CGI, and I think that actually seeing the texture of it and actually seeing like the beautiful work that Legacy Studios did just to create this costume, it's real. It feels real, you know? And so yeah, the process of it was definitely a bit of torture, but you know, I think that it looks amazing, and it really lends itself to just a, you know, really wonderful character.
Yeah. And I'm interested to know, you're playing a character who, you know, the metahumans are different, but you're playing a character who's like also different on top of being like as a part of a different group. So what was the importance you think of this character kind of providing that that sort of POV within this movie?
Yeah, well, I'm lucky enough to have had like a really wonderful kind of arc, you know, at least emotionally with this movie, and I do think that you kind of see, you're introduced to a number of kind of, you know, like the Justice Gang, for instance. You kind of see, you know, you see these other kind of like factions already in action, and I don't know. That's similarly, you know, to the Metamorpho. I'm just like, just excited, just excited.
Yeah. If we do get to see more of these characters, do you think is the Justice Gang name going to stick?
I mean, I hope not. Like, I just feel like I believe in reform. Okay, I believe in also just being able to have fluidity. Like Snoop Dogg didn't settle on Snoop Dogg. Yeah. He went around. He named other animals. He became. You evolve. You evolve.
Yeah. We're gonna figure out what's the next evolution of the statement.
We could even have it be more spiritual, like Justice Circle.
Ooh, I like
Justice Karma, because we bring it back.
Yeah.
That's right. I think we figure it out without Nathan, and then we let him know.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we let him know what it is.
It's just don't consult.
Yeah, you know, don't tell
Do
him.
not
You
tell
know?
Nathan.
We're gonna touch base about this, you know, next time.
Yeah.
Well, thank you three so much for chatting with me. I can't wait for more people to see this film and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you so much.